It is late October. You walk outside after 3 days of steady rain and you look up at the north side of your roof. The shingles are dark. Some of them are slick and furry at the edges. There is a green creep along the ridge that was not there in the spring, and the black streaks running down the slope make the whole side of the house look 10 years older than it is. You already know what this means. It means a phone call, a man on a ladder, and a number you do not want to hear. Basic roof moss removal now runs 28 to 35 cents a square foot. On a modest 1,500 square foot roof, that is $420 to $525. And that is just to get back to where you were before the moss came. It does not fix a thing underneath. It does not stop the moss from coming right back next fall. It is a cleaning bill you will pay again and again and again as long as the shingles hold out. And when they do not hold out, when the moisture has pried enough edges and the decking starts to rot, you are looking at a re-roof north of $7,000. That is the trajectory. Pay to clean it again, and then pay to replace it. There is a way the old-time roofers and handymen handled this for pennies. A strip of plain metal at the ridge and nothing else but rain. It has been around since before your grandfather's house was built. And the only reason you were never taught it is that nobody makes money selling you a $27 fix you install once. There is a great deal of money in the cleaning contract, the annual callback, and the shingle replacement, so the simple old method sits quiet while the bills keep coming. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that metal is, how it works, what it honestly cannot do, and whether the bare copper wire in the title is the right version or just the lean one. You will have every price on the pad and the math in front of you. I want to be straight with you before I go any further. Most folks hear moss on the roof, and they think they need a jug of something, or a man on a ladder with a sprayer, or both. And the jugs come out every spring, and the ladder goes up every fall, and the bill shows up every single time. $400, $500 a cleaning, and the moss comes right back because nobody fixed the reason it grew there. Here is the thing. The answer was never another product. The old answer, the one your grandfather's roofer already knew, was letting rain do the work over a strip of plain metal that costs you less than $30 one time. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that metal does, how it does it, what it honestly does not do, and whether a bare copper wire is the smart thrift move or just the skinny version of a better idea. You will have every price written down and the math in front of you. And you will be able to look at your own roof tonight and know which path fits your house. My name is Hal Perkins. I am 74 years old. I have been a mechanic and a handyman my whole working life, and I learned every one of these methods from parents who came up through the Depression and never wasted a thing. My mother and father never earned much, and they died with more in the bank than neighbors who made 3 times their wage. That is the proof, not a slogan, a checkbook. I share these because somebody has to hand them on, or they are gone. And this one sits right at the intersection of my father's world. The roof, the gutter, the house that lasts because you tend it instead of ignoring it until the bill gets ugly. Before I show you what to do, you need to understand why it works, because the why tells you what to expect and what not to expect. And that is the part most people skip, which is exactly why they end up disappointed. Moss is not just a green carpet on your shingles. Extension services will tell you plainly. Moss traps debris and moisture, keeps the roofing material wet longer than it was ever designed to stay wet, and on asphalt shingles, it can lift the edges so water gets underneath where it has no business being. Those black streaks you see on a lot of roofs, that is usually a different creature entirely, a blue-green algae called Gloeocapsa magma. It darkens the roof, it looks terrible, But it is not the same thing as a thick mat of moss prying your shingles apart. That distinction matters because most folks lump every dark roof problem into one bucket and then expect one magic fix. There is no magic fix. Now here is the mechanism, plainly. When rainwater moves across zinc or copper, small amounts of the metal weather into the water. Copper ions, zinc ions, carried in the moisture. Roofing manufacturers already use this exact principle. GAF, one of the biggest names in shingles, sells algae-resistant roofing with copper-based protection built right into the product. The idea is the same at the ridge. You put the metal at the top, the rain hits it, picks up those trace ions, and washes them down the slope. That thin film of metal-laced water makes the shingle surface less welcoming to new algae and new moss growth. That is why placement matters. The water has to contact the metal first, then travel over the roof below it. Anything above the metal gets no protection. Anything off to the side where water does not flow gets no protection. And here is the part I need you to hear clearly, because this is where the honest version parts company with the internet version. The metal method is preventive first. GAF's own installation instructions for their zinc moss preventer strip say it plainly: the strip does not kill existing growth, it inhibits future growth. The roof must be cleaned first. The same honest logic applies to any copper version. If you already have heavy, cushiony mats of moss up there, a wire or a strip is not a substitute for removing them. It is the thing you install after removal, so you are not paying $400 to do the same job again next year. Write that down, because that single sentence is the difference between this working and this being a waste of your afternoon. If this is the kind of plain, honest, old ways teaching that keeps money in your pocket, hit subscribe. I put one of these out regularly. Same principle, different expense, same careful math. That is all I will say about it. Back to the roof. Now let me walk you through exactly what to do, what it costs, and which version fits your situation. First, you need to decide whether this is your job or a roofer's job. I will say this as plainly as I know how. If your roof is steep, high, wet, brittle, or already showing soft spots, the savings stop right there. OSHA says falls are the leading cause of death in residential construction, and roofing is one of the clearest examples. For this audience, the practical translation is simple. If you do not already have safe access, dry conditions, proper footwear, and real fall protection, the cheap answer is not to be brave. The cheap answer is to stay alive and pay for the dangerous part. You can still choose the materials and save money on every repeat cleaning you will never need again. You just let a professional do the high work. Second, clear the living moss first. This is the step most people get wrong. They fasten up the metal and sit back and wait for the moss to melt away. It does not work like that. The roof needs to be cleared of established moss before the metal can do its job. On asphalt, you cannot blast it with a pressure washer. That strips the granules right off and shortens the life of the roof. The safe approach is to remove debris and loose moss gently from a ladder edge, or hire a roof cleaner for heavy buildup. If black algae staining is part of your problem, a diluted bleach and water wash may lighten it temporarily, but that makes the roof slippery and can damage landscaping below, so proceed with real caution or let a professional handle it. Third, measure the slope, not just the ridge. Measure your ridge length, that is the top line, but also measure the distance from ridge to eave. Here is the detail that separates good thrift from disappointment. If the run from ridge to eave is longer than 14 feet, you should not expect one line of metal at the top to protect the whole slope. GAF says that when the roof extends more than 14 feet down from the ridge, a second strip halfway down may be needed. On hip roofs, every side that sheds water independently needs its own protection line. Say that number out loud to yourself, 14 feet. because it is the honest limit of one strip's reach. Fourth, and this is the stronger, better documented version, install a zinc strip under the ridge cap. You lift the ridge cap edge carefully and slide the strip under so about 1 inch stays hidden and the exposed portion sits right where rain washes over it. Install on both sides of the ridge, keep most of the strip exposed to the weather, and fasten about every 12 inches with corrosion-resistant nails or glue it with a high-grade exterior construction adhesive appropriate for the roofing material. On hip roofs, repeat on each hip line. Here is what that costs you. A 50-foot zinc moss preventer strip runs $40.64 at Home Depot. Or you can get a 50-foot zinc strip with nails included for $42.78 at Lowe's. Add a tube of exterior sealant at about $8 and a box of roofing nails with neoprene washers at about $8 if you need them. Your total for the better supported strip version, about $53.61. Put it on the pad. Fifth, the minimalist version, bare copper wire. Now I will give you the thrifty handyman's adaptation, and I will give it to you honestly. A bare 12-gauge copper wire, the same grounding wire you can buy by the foot at any hardware store, runs 28 cents a foot at Home Depot. A 40-foot ridge uses about $11.20 in copper. Add the nails at about $8 and the sealant at about $8, and you are looking at a total of roughly $27.17. That is the lean number. The wire's advantage is cost and near invisibility. The wire's disadvantage is obvious before I even say it. A thin wire gives the rain far less wet metal to work across than a 2.5-inch strip. Less surface area means less metal delivered into each rainstorm, which means slower and thinner protection. So if you go the wire route, run it on both sides of the ridge, keep it taut and directly in the runoff path, secure it with corrosion-resistant fasteners, and seal every penetration. Understand that this is the skinny version of the same chemistry. The strip is the stronger, more widely documented layout. The wire is the frugal adaptation. Plausible, traditional, and likely slower because it exposes less metal to water. I am giving you that as practical judgment, not as a lab result. Let me say something plain about the wrong approach, because there is a lot of bad advice on this one. The nonsense version goes like this: one wire across the peak and you never touch the roof again. That is not how it works. The honest version is remove the live moss, install the metal where runoff can wash over it on both sides, keep the roof free of leaf litter so the water can actually reach the shingles, and understand that protection is limited by water path and roof length. Anybody who tells you a single wire erases decades of moss without cleaning it first is selling you a story, not a method. Now let me say something about what to avoid with your materials. Do not send copper or zinc runoff carelessly into fish ponds, water supplies, or rain barrels you use to water an edible garden. Extension and water quality sources flag the runoff concern, and it is a real one. And copper exposure can accelerate corrosion on aluminum gutters, flashing trim. If you have aluminum components in the drainage path below the copper, think that through or talk to a roofer about compatibility. Sixth, wait like a careful man, not like a gambler. This method works with weather, not against it. The effect is gradual. The rain has to hit the metal repeatedly, carry those ions downslope, and make the roof increasingly unfriendly to new growth. A roof that is already stained or moss-scarred will not look brand new next week. Improvement comes over rainy weeks and months, and the lower sections may lag if the slope is long or the roof stays shaded and buried under debris. Now the heritage, and I want to be honest about it. The script running around the internet says, Depression families stretched copper wire over every roof in America. That is not quite how it happened, and I am not going to dress it up. The real, broader truth is that older households and building trades already understood two things. Weathering metals at the ridge could suppress moss and fungus, and copper-based compounds had been used for decades in ordinary plant and farm care. The old Bordeaux mixture is pure copper fungicide, and it has been around since the 1880s. Historic preservation guidance for older roofs still tells owners to install zinc near the ridge so rain can wash the fungicidal metal down the surface. So the heritage is real. It is just broader than the thumbnail version. The copper wire is best understood as a frugal handyman's adaptation of an older maintenance principle, not a lost national secret. You are not learning something new. You are recovering something the old, careful folks already practiced in a form that costs you the least. Here is the rhythm that keeps this saving compounding, because this works through habit, not through one afternoon of cleverness. Every spring, clear leaves, needles, and seed litter off the roof and out of the gutters, because moss needs trapped moisture and organic debris more than it needs anything else. Every summer, trim back the branches that keep the north slope in shade and stop the roof from drying. Every fall, inspect the metal line, the fasteners, and the drainage path. After storms, make sure the strip or wire is still exposed and not buried under debris. Shade, standing moisture, and debris are what keep inviting the problem back. The metal helps, but only if you let the rain reach it and let the sun reach the shingles. Now be honest about what this does. The evidence is strong for a zinc or galvanized strip at the ridge as a long-term suppressive measure, especially after moss removal. It is moderate for copper at the ridge, because roofing products and copper-based systems rely on the same ion release chemistry, and the principle is well established. For a single bare wire specifically, the evidence is mild to moderate, plausible, and traditional, but less directly documented than strips, and likely slower because it exposes less metal surface to water. Where it works best, rainy climates, roofs with periodic wetting, and houses where existing moss is removed first. Where it disappoints, long slopes beyond the 14-foot protection line, deeply shaded roofs packed with debris, roofs with rotten decking or lifted tabs, and any situation where a viewer expects the metal to erase old moss without cleaning. If your roof has soft spots, active leaks, repeated regrowth despite good drainage, or shingles that are already at the end of their life, call a roofer. This is the cheap preventive measure for a sound roof, not a patch for a failing one. And this part is not optional. A wet roof is not a thrift project. Falls are the leading cause of death in residential construction. If you do not have safe, dry access and real fall protection, do not go up there to save $30. Pay the professional for the dangerous part and keep the savings on every cleaning you will never need again. On materials, remember, bleach cleaning makes a roof dangerously slippery and can burn the landscaping if it runs off below. Copper and zinc runoff should not go straight into ponds or edible garden watering, and copper in the drainage path above aluminum can cause corrosion trouble. Know what is below your metal before you install it. Now I want to take a moment because here is where it all comes together. Look at what we have walked through. A zinc strip at the ridge, the stronger, better documented version, runs you about $54 total for a 40-foot ridge. A bare copper wire, the lean traditional adaptation, runs you about $27. Both use the same chemistry. Rain picks up trace metal, carries it down the slope, and makes the surface hostile to new moss and algae. Both require you to clear the existing moss first. Both protect only below the metal, only in the water path, and only up to about 14 feet of run. The strip gives you more surface area, more delivered metal, and more documentation behind it. The wire gives you less money spent and a method that has been quietly handed down through old-time roofers and handymen for generations. The honest math is plain. Let me put it on the pad. The minimal copper wire setup, 40 feet of 12-gauge bare copper at 28 cents a foot, $11.20. One box of roofing nails with neoprene washers, $7.98. One tube of exterior sealant, $7.99. Total, about $27.17. The better supported strip setup, 50-foot zinc strip, $40.64. Basic roofing nails, $4.98. One tube of sealant, $7.99. Total, about $53.61. Or use the Lowe's Strip with Nails kit at $42.78 and save a few dollars. Against that, a professional roof moss removal on a 1,500 square foot roof at 28 to 35 cents per square foot runs $420 to $525 every time, and a basic new asphalt shingle roof, the thing you are trying to push off by 10 or 15 years, runs about $5.09 to $6.66 per square foot, which puts a 1,500 square foot roof replacement at $7,600 to just under $10,000. The honest line is not that a wire saves $10,000 by magic. It is that a small preventive spend, $27 to $54 one time, can help you avoid repeat cleaning bills year after year and reduce the chance that neglect pushes you toward an early re-roof. On a fixed income, that gap is real money. There is no money in teaching a family to clear the moss once, tack up a metal strip, and let the weather handle prevention. There is money in the bottle, the callback, the annual cleaning contract, and eventually the replacement. And the thing is, it is not even a secret. The roofing industry itself proves the point. Manufacturers already sell algae-resistant shingles that use copper-based protection built right into the product. The chemistry was never hidden. What got lost was the household habit of using a little plain material and a little maintenance instead of buying the next specialized service forever. This is not a conspiracy. It is what happens when a simple maintenance principle is less profitable than a recurring service cycle. It is a system nobody had to coordinate. You can be the one who never paid. This was never really about a copper wire. It was about whether your house depends on the store every season, or whether you know one plain thing the old careful folks knew, that a little material and a little attention, applied once and maintained with common sense, keeps the big expense from ever showing up. Here is what I want you to do. Tonight, stand on the ground, not the roof, and look for three things: north side shade, leaf buildup along the ridgeline, and how long your ridge-to-eave run actually is. This week, measure the ridge, decide whether the roof is safe enough for you or whether it belongs to a roofer, and choose your path: the lean copper wire at $27 or the stronger zinc strip at about $54. This month, get the live moss removed and install the ridge metal correctly, both sides, sealed penetrations, fastened every 12 inches. This season, trim back the shade, keep gutters draining, and inspect after the first big storm. That is one afternoon and $27 to $54 against $400 a year in cleaning and thousands in early replacement. Now I want to hear from you. What keeps coming back on your roof? Thick moss, black streaks, or both? And if your father, your grandfather, or some old roofer in your town had a weather and metal trick for keeping a house dry, put it in the comments. These little inherited methods disappear when nobody writes them down, and I read every single one. Next time, same principle, different problem, same low-cost prevention, the old dollar way to keep winter drafts from stealing money through your windows. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, clear the moss, install the metal, let the rain do the work, and tend the roof the way a careful man tends anything worth keeping. That is how the careful old folks got by without owing anybody a dime. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.